I still hear him sometimes, in the quiet, before the sun comes up, when the world has not started moving yet. I hear Danny, not the way he sounded at the end, not that sound, I mean the way he laughed, big, stupid, like everything was the funniest thing he had ever heard. Like the whole world was a joke, only he knew the punchline too. I have been trying to forget that laugh for 58 years, and I have been trying to hold on to it for just as long. That is the thing nobody tells you about war. It does not just take people, it takes pieces of you, and then it makes you the one who has to keep living with all those missing pieces, just walking around, breathing, pretending. I was 21 years old in January of 1968. 21. Lord have mercy. I had never been west of the Mississippi. Before they put me on a plane to Southeast Asia, Daniel Joseph Kowalski was 22. We had been in the same platoon since Camp Lejeune. He was from Youngstown, Ohio. His father worked the steel mills. His hands were already rough like his father's. Even before the war, he had a photograph. He kept it in his breast pocket every single day. A girl named Margaret, dark hair, serious eyes. She was a school teacher, 3rd grade, Youngstown Elementary. He talked about her the way some men talk about God, like she was the thing that organized the whole universe. He used to say, "When this is over, Sal, I am going to marry that woman, and I am going to spend the rest of my life making sure she never stops." Smiling, he said that a lot. Danny and I shared everything in the jungle. Sea rations we could not. Stomach. Cigarettes we bummed from each other. Fear we pretended we did not have. There were no cell phones then. No way to call home when things got dark. You wrote letters. You waited weeks for the reply. Sometimes they never came. The mail was slower than dying over there. We had been in country about 5 months when he pulled me aside. It was a quiet night, relatively speaking. He took an envelope out of his pack, held it out to me. His hand was steady. Mine would not have been. He said, "Sal, I need you to do something for me." I told him to stop. I knew what it was. I had seen other guys do it. He said, "Just take it. If I make it home, we burn it together over a cold beer and laugh about it. But if I do not," he stopped, swallowed hard. "You find Margaret. You give this to her personally, not through the mail, not through my mother. You look her in the eye, and you give it to her. You promise me." I promised him. I was 21 years old. I did not know what a promise like that cost. The Tet Offensive started on the 30th of January, 1968. If you were not there, I cannot explain it to you, and if you were there, you already know. I will not try to dress it up. It was a catastrophe. It came out of nowhere, all of it, everywhere at once. We had been told things were improving. The brass had been saying that for months, that we were winning, that it was winding down. And then the whole country exploded in a single night. We were in Hue, that city, those streets. I can still smell them. Smoke and rain and something sweet underneath it that you did not want to think about too long. Our unit got pinned down in a building near the river. The radio was barely working. We had no clear picture of what was happening. Half the time, command was just static. Danny was to my left. We were low against a wall. Brick, old French colonial brick. Bullets were chipping at it like it was chalk. I do not remember the exact moment it happened. That is something they do not show you in the movies, how fast it is, how ordinary the second before is. He was there, talking, and then he was not standing anymore. I got to him fast. I did. But fast was not fast enough for what needed doing. We did not have the medical equipment then that they have now. No trauma kits on every soldier. No way to call in a helicopter to a street that hot. Just field dressings and prayer and the names of people you loved on your lips. He said my name twice. Then he said Margaret's name. And then he was quiet. I held him for longer than I should have. Longer than was safe. But I could not make myself let go. Some part of me thought that if I held on tight enough, the universe would make a different decision. Change its mind. Give him back. It did not. I kept the letter in my wallet, right behind my military identification. I could feel it there every single day for the rest of my tour, every single day for the years that followed. I came home to Pennsylvania in the fall of 1968, 22 years old, thin as wire, quiet as a stone, Margaret Halloran. That was her name after she married. I found that out eventually. She had not waited. That is not a cruelty. It had been nearly a year. She did not know if Danny was alive or dead for months. She had to keep living. People do. They have to. She had 2 kids by 1972, lived outside of Youngstown still. I drove past her street once, 1974, sat in my car for 45 minutes. Engine running, could not make myself get out. I told myself I was protecting her, that opening that wound would only cause pain, that she had moved on and I had no right to drag her back. But that was not the whole truth. The truth was I could not bear to watch her read it, could not bear to see Danny's words land on someone's face and know he was not there to say them himself. So I drove away. 40 years I carried that letter, through my own marriage, through the births of my children, through the death of my wife, God rest her, through all of it. That envelope, worn soft as cloth, living in wallet after wallet, a debt I could not pay. It was my daughter who finally made me do it. She found the letter while helping me clean out some things. I had told her about Danny over the years, pieces of it anyway. She looked at me. She did not yell. She did not push. She just said, "Dad, you promised him." 3 words. That is all it took. I found Margaret through her daughter. The internet helped. Something Danny never got to see. I was 79 years old. She was 78. Her husband had passed 5 years prior. She was living with her daughter in Akron. I drove to Ohio on a Tuesday in March, 2025. Drove myself 4 hours. My hands shook the whole way, not from the cold. Her daughter let me in. Margaret was sitting in the living room. Small woman, white-haired, those same serious eyes from the photograph, the one Danny had kept in his breast pocket, the one I had memorized 58 years ago. I sat down across from her. I pulled the envelope out of my jacket pocket. I put it on the table between us. I said, "Margaret, my name is Salvatore. I served with Daniel Kowalski. He made me promise to give this to you. I am sorry it took me so long." She looked at the envelope. She looked at me. She did not say anything for a long moment. Then she picked it up. Her hands were steadier than mine. She read it in silence. I looked at the window, at the gray Ohio sky. I did not watch her face. I could not. Some things are too private even. for the person who carried them halfway across a lifetime. When she was done, she folded it carefully, held it against her chest, the same place Danny used to keep her photograph. She said, "He was a good man." I said, "The best I ever knew." We sat there for a while after that, just two old people in a quiet room, the weight of 58 years sitting with us. I do not know if I did the right thing. Waiting so long, I ask myself that still. Every man has a burden he carries, something he cannot put down, something he cannot justify. Maybe the carrying was part of the penance. Maybe it should have been sooner. Maybe Danny would have understood either way. He told me once, right before everything fell apart over there, that the hardest part of love is not the feeling. It is the responsibility that comes with it, being trusted with someone's heart even after they are gone. I understand that now. I was 21 when I made that promise. I was 79 when I kept it. I do not know what that says about me. I honestly do not.